Ukraine will never become a member of NATO, ever. It can't happen. It won't happen. But let's just hypothesize and say that it does. NATO nuclear weapons are part of a NATO nuclear policy. And so for any nuclear weapons to be stored in Ukraine would require the support of all 30 nations of NATO. And that's just not going to happen. Germany would veto it in a heartbeat, which means the United States would then have to enter a bilateral nuclear agreement with Ukraine, which would be a violation of the nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. None of this will happen overnight, and all of it will result in instantaneous military response from Russia. Russia right now, as I said, can destroy Ukraine within a week. Ukraine will disappear off the face of the earth as a modern functioning nation state. Its military will be either dead or prisoners. All that beautiful equipment that's being flown in right now from Great Britain will go into Russian warehouses. And Russia thanks the American taxpayer and the British taxpayer very much for the hundreds of millions of dollars of brand new equipment that you're giving to Russia. I mean, one only has to take a look at the billions of dollars that we provided the Afghan government and the Afghan army and saw what happens there. It's all Taliban owned. And the Russians are far more capable than the Taliban. So Russia will own all of this equipment. They'll spend more time processing Ukrainian prisoners of war than killing Ukrainians. And the Ukrainian government will disappear. All their industrial infrastructure will disappear. And there will be this rotting hulk of a country left for Europe to take care of, because Russia's not going to occupy it. They're just going to destroy it. And that's it. So I'm not worried about any of that. There's not going to be any missiles in Ukraine. There's not going to be any nuclear weapons in Ukraine. There's going to be nothing, because Russia's made it clear they won't be allowed to happen. Russia's not going to sit around and let NATO dictate the timeline here. You know, we talk about all these negotiations have taken place. You know, the arrogance of the United States, Great Britain, the European Union of saying, you know, we're setting a table and we're allowing the Russians to come to this table. That game has changed. The table is being set by Russia. The menu is being determined by Russia, and Russia is inviting us to the table. That's how this game is working today. Russia's dictating the solution. And they're making it clear they will not accept major deviations from this. Yes, there's room for compromise, but the compromise will not violate any of the fundamental security guarantees Russia demands from this. And the solutions will not be something that Russia that causes Russia to spend an inordinate amount of time. Russia's not going to give the West time. This problem will be resolved on Russia's timeline, and it's a much shorter timeline than the West thinks.
Well, yeah, hang on though, Scott, because the NATO has already got its missile defence shield in Romania and Poland. So, surely it's only, in a way, a tick box exercise that they might start installing these. They call it a defensive system, but of course it's nuclear capable, and it's almost a tick box exercise to add these missiles into Ukraine too, which is a fraction closer to Moscow.
It would take months to install an Aegis Ashore Mark 41 missile defense system. But while they tried to install that in Ukraine, the first thing that would happen is that Russia would fire two hypersonic non-nuclear missiles, and the Ukrainian missile site, or the Polish missile site, and the Romanian missile site would be destroyed. It's a joke. I mean, let's just stop pretending that these are real military capabilities. There are 2 points on the ground that are well known to Russia, and those points on the ground will cease to exist in any real military confrontation. Russia's not going to allow the West to accumulate that kind of offensive strike power that threatens Russia. The bigger danger isn't these two Aegis Ashore systems, which are just political. They're purely done for political visibility. They're not real military systems. They won't survive day one, hour one, minute one in any real war with Russia.
Yeah, but hang on, Scott, hang on, because the Russians are saying that these missile sites are potentially first strike nuclear capable of hitting Russia.
Well, the Russians are saying that because Russia has been right all along. When these systems were deployed, Russia said these are not anti-ballistic missile systems. These are systems taken from U.S. naval warships. And when they're on warships, they can be used to fire nuclear-capable cruise missiles. And now that the Navy has redesigned its surface-to-air missiles to be surface-to-surface missiles called Typhoon, they all fit in the same canisters that are loaded. So the capability is there for the United States to load the launch canisters with Tomahawk missiles and Typhoon missiles, etc. That's true. But the reality is these are fixed known locations. Okay, I've been doing warfare for a long time. And I'm telling you right now, they won't live past minute one. Okay, there's not redundancy. There's not like 50 of them, out there. There's 2. And we know the Russians know where they are. And they've targeted and they will be eliminated. The bigger threat comes in the form of, for instance, if you take the Mark 41 system and make it mobile. If you now take that same launch canister and you put it on a trailer that can be moved around, that's what the Typhoon system is that they're talking about deploying sometime in 2023, 2024. Or later this year, we have something called Dark Eagle, which is a hypersonic missile system that is scheduled to be deployed in Europe. These are far more dangerous systems that the Russians are truly worried about because they're mobile, they're relocatable, they're more difficult to target. And if the United States deploys these and Europe accepts these weapons, then the Russians say that we will respond in kind, meaning that they will deploy similar technology throughout, the forward areas of Western Russia that threatens the totality of Europe. We'll be back to the 1980s where Russian SS-20 missiles targeted every major European city with a 100 to 150 megaton or kiloton warhead, meaning Paris, goodbye, London, goodbye, every city, goodbye. We're going to return to that. We had walked away from that insanity at one point, and now, thanks to the United States, we may be right back there.